Hello and good morning, potentially good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And yeah, man, welcome back to Chelsea News. Of course, this is the daily content on Football Therapy where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, indeed the talking points, or something that I want to speak about. From around global footballing news media, give you my take on it, my thoughts, but as always, more importantly, asking for yours because we are a community. We're all friends, huh? And that's what we're going to speak about today, mate. Well, yeah, a bunch of things. Let me run you down. Firstly, full disclosure, I can't shake this lurgy I've got. Still ill. If you're watching from the United Kingdom, you will know loads of people have got sick from, some people got flu, some other people got this chest thing that I've got. It sucks. I was going to swear, I'm not going to swear, this is a family-friendly channel, but yeah, it's not good. So you will forgive me as I try and slowly drip feed my way back to health and then full vitality to deliver you the best content. Today we're speaking about the thought experiment of recalling Nico Jackson. Of course, Mega's turning up, and he's played under Rosenia really well. Jackson left, though, because he had a rift with Enzo Maresca. And the fact how Delap can play out wide, and he did under Rosenia at Hull, it's something to discuss. We'll speak about the striker situation more generally, because that seems to be like an ongoing issue, Chelsea, for years and years. And just when you think you've solved it with Romelu Lukaku, he goes and does that interview. We'll also speak about Raheem Sterling, because lest we forget, of course, it's a bit quiet at the moment, but we are in a transfer window at time of recording, and he remains a big problem. There's some sources, well, there's some suggestion Napoli are back in for him, but I must apologise now and say it's for Chaz. I'm not going to reference them, man. They are the publication that should not be named because they literally seemingly make up nonsense. But yes, Sterling is still a Chelsea player. I have very much doubt his career is going to be revitalised under Rosenior. I think that's probably a dictatorship sporting director thing. They just don't want to pay his wages. And on Liam, I'm going to cite an article from Chelsea.news speaking about Liam Rosenia. Can he win the fans over? Is he doomed to fail because he's Blueco's boy? Etc, etc. I mean, I've been very impressed with how he speaks, his story, his backstory. And hopefully his football in one game started well, but we'll speak a bit about that as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you with me on the good ship Football Therapy. If you're watching here on YouTube, then do consider liking and subscribing. Because you, mate, are welcome, provided you're not a terrible person. Or hateful. So thank you for liking and subscribing. Do check this out on podcast platforms. Should you want to search Football Therapy Podcast, just add the word podcast at the end. And if you're on Spotify, you can watch the video. You can follow and 5-star. That's nice of you. Thank you very much. Right. So let's start off with the striker situation. Nico Jackson, how's he doing? Yeah, let's just quickly see how much he's playing for Bayern Munich on his loan. That cost them a lot of money, Bayern, but he's definitely coming back because he's not going to trigger the clause where they have to buy him for 60 odd million, whatever it is. He's at AFCON with Senegal. Have they been eliminated? I'm not sure. 2 goals and an assist in 3 appearances is pretty strong. For Bayern this season, yeah, lots of sort of not great minutes. He's got 2 Champions League goals and an assist in 131 minutes, which is pretty strong, but I can imagine, the game states probably weren't so strong. He's got 3 Bundesliga goals in 408 minutes. Sort of doing alright. He's doing alright, and he's got scored a couple of times in World Cup qualifiers. He's sort of, going along nicely. He's still only 24 years old. I don't think he turns 25 until after the season. Yeah, I think after the season ends, at some point in the summer, he'll turn 25. So still a very young striker, and he'll have a wealth of experience now, of course, playing at Villarreal under Unai Emery, quite a high level. Of course, enjoying 2 seasons at Chelsea with a decent goal return, and still going off to Bayern Munich for a loan, which, can only be described as positive experience. And of course, he's still playing for Senegal quite a lot. So he's high profile, Jackson, especially since we've signed him. His profile's been raised. The question is, in watching, Joao Pedro struggle, I mean, there's a lot of just because there's an unrest at Chelsea, but there's also a brave new world in terms of potential players playing well under a different manager, just because they were, you might have seen Joao Pedro struggle doing some stuff before. Well, he turned up at Chelsea, Joao Pedro, playing really well, Club World Cup in the beginning of the season. And some people were criticising Enzo Maresca, it's like he was playing well until Maresca proper got his hands onto him and sort of dampened him. And I don't really align myself with this personally, but there's suggestion Palmer was doing really well until Maresca, got his hands on him. Joao Pedro started really well until he got Maresca. That's unfair. I think there's players that have developed under Maresca, but also I think he's quite dogmatic and systemic in many ways, and in certain principles that maybe certain attacking players struggle after a while. I know Cole Palmer's definitely cut a frustrated figure in the last few months, not just because of his injury, but how things are happening around him. So his confidence needs to be rebuilt, and I'm sort of hoping Liam Rosenior does that, because he's a renownedly positive manager, and I think Cole Palmer doesn't need a tactician. I think Cole Palmer needs what I call a Galactico whisperer. Just someone to get, your Ancelottis and your Zidanes, those kind of... I'm not saying Liam Rosenia is Ancelotti or Zidane. I mean, I think he's probably, when Zidane got the Real Madrid job, I think he was probably more qualified than Zidane was. But this is Zidane's great of the game or whatever. What I'm saying is he needs someone to get in his ear and make him good again. But to bring it back to Nico did a lot of stuff right for Chelsea, probably underappreciated and soured by his red cards late on in his Chelsea career. And that's probably what caused the fallout between him and Maresca. Maresca's, of course, now left Chelsea, so there's a big conversation. Should he be brought back? I wonder. He'll be seen as an intelligent purchase that will make them money. There's been other recent ones, Vega and freaking Madueke and whatever, all them, man. Now, I understand totally that one of the big criticisms with this current ownership and sporting structure is that they're obsessed with making money. I mean, I sort of see it. They've spent a lot of money as well. And, if they were really obsessed with making money, they would have just taken... I don't know, would they have taken any sponsorship, or are they holding out for too much? I don't know. Point being, though, you can't be angry at your club for maybe generating a lot of money through sales on players that perhaps, you don't think we should... Jackson will have a lot of people that don't want him to be sold, but Jackson will also have a lot of people in the Chelsea fan base that will be totally fine with him being sold, and then also knowing that he's made them their club they support a massive profit. It's not about profit going in the owner's pockets. It's about profit going into Chelsea, so they're not financially hamstrung. They don't get any financial sanctions for breaching fair play. They're generating revenue. It's a good thing. It's an important thing for your club to make money. I don't think Jackson will come back. I see it being a conversation. I do think he was underappreciated, and I think maybe he can become an excellent striker. But I think maybe it's just done now. I wonder, his relationships seem to break down a little bit with Palmer as well. Certainly on the pitch, that there's sort of synergy, and there was a few cases where you saw Palmer really scream at him in terms of him making the wrong decisions. And of course, the important thing to note here is Chelsea have signed Emmanuel Omega ostensibly as a Nico Jackson replacement. He arrives in the summer, and the facts now how the new manager managed Omega to make, and developed him into the captain, the number 10, the really effective striker in Liga, that he'll be delighted he's joining him at Chelsea. So I don't think Jenks will come back. And actually, there's a good chance. I think Mark Gue he deserves a loan. I think he's just turned 20, so he was a teenager all his time at Chelsea. I think he's just turned 20 years old. I think Gue deserves a Premier League loan. I've got to let my cat in. Right, so my cat does this thing sometimes. I've got one of those microchip cat flaps. Sorry, you don't get intruders coming in. And sometimes she puts her nose on it, it clicks, she goes through, and sometimes she just sits and knocks until I open the ruddy door. Can't say. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, strikers. So Gue, I think, deserves a loan. I think he deserves minutes. I think Mark Gue, I don't think he could start for a Champions League team. Well, he probably could, like some sort of Champions League team, but like maybe like a Belgium team. But like I think he deserves like a starting loan at top Championship, maybe like a lower league Premier League team. Now I know he went to Sunderland, he wasn't going to be first choice, but I think he could be first choice somewhere, even if it isn't immediate. He's so good. I do think Liam Rosenior likes him because he represents what he likes in a player, this young, tenacious, high-octane pressing stuff. But while he's not going to start at Chelsea, and if we're being completely fair, the other two options have both been coached by Liam before, and that is, of course, Emmanuel Omega and Liam Delap. It's obviously at Hull and Strasbourg, respectively. So he knows those players, he likes those players, he's got a tune out of those players. And that's two striker options. And actually, Joao Pedro is not going anywhere. He will be used at Chelsea. And, he's been disappointing me in the striker role. But, maybe under a new manager with new slight tactical tweaks, with, like I say, getting in his ear, doing the Galactico whisperer thing, maybe Joao Pedro performs better as a striker. And suddenly we're in a position where, we're not buying a striker. We've got one coming in the summer who's good and highly rated, like, in the game. And we have to look at the landscape, the market landscape. Of course, everyone was fighting over Šeško and Gyökeres in the summer. Šeško cost way too much money. Gyökeres looked like he's not the guy. Do you know what I mean? So, and then Isak was the one that everyone wanted, and he's had a terrible time at Liverpool for a multitude of reasons. So, do you know what I mean? It's tough, really, bro. Like, there's no obvious guy. I would have loved for us to somehow wrangle Harry Kane in the summer off Bayern Munich, and he's just absolutely destroying that league. He's blown Lewandowski's hat-trick record out the window to get to 10 hat-tricks. 10 hat-tricks? Yeah, something insane. Like, it was like a fraction of the games that Lewa did it in. So, let me know what you think about strikers. I think probably we won't buy them, but we're going to continue the transfer talk before we speak about the gaffer and speak about Raheem Sterling. Excuse me, this one's tough. We are in a transfer window. They won't reintegrate him. It won't be. I've very much maintained my position on this. I don't think it was Maresca's decision to ostracize Sterling. I think he towed the party line. I think it was a sporting director thing saying we're trying to push him out, we don't want to pay his wages. I think if Maresca had Sterling to play like he was just like on 80k a week and in 5 years younger, he would have just played him. Do you know what I mean? He would have used him and utilised him. In fact, he had him... Wait, did he? Yeah, hold on. No, he would have left. He left before the treble-winning season. So I don't know if he's coached him at Man City as an assistant, Maresca. But I definitely think it wasn't him that pushed him out. I think it was the club. The hierarchy, the much maligned hierarchy. So, here's a problem that still needs to be solved. I'm very mindful to be respectful of an incredible professional. Well, maybe he's not done the greatest. I mean, he's had an amazing career, and he's been a great professional, a great pro. He's dealt with a lot of tricky stuff as well in the media. He's been harassed by the mainstream tabloid English media. And he's been incredibly successful, and by all accounts, he's a really good dude. He's a family man. And we need to be very mindful and, fair and careful when we speak about a person here. But I don't think he wants to stop playing football. I think he wants to continue his career. He's not going to go to the World Cup. I think if these links to Bayern and Napoli were true last summer, then it's on him, because you had an opportunity to go play for the title winners of Italy and Germany to raise your profile. So Thomas Tuchel, the guy that was desperate to sign you for Chelsea, calls you up to his England squad. It was an open goal, to use that metaphor, for Raheem, and he chose not to do it, which is totally his choice. Stay with his family in London, earn 325k a week or 300k a week. Fine, it's your choice, mate, and it's yours to make. And we gave you that contract, so we just the bed that Chelsea has to lie in. But how much does he want to play football? The Napoli thing's still there. Again, it's coming from Fachahez. it was other more reputable links before. Jesus, there's pictures of him and Aubameyang together in a Chelsea shirt. Christ. God, that feels like a world away. Excuse me, there were 2 transfers bought for Tuchel. We'll give you Raheem, who was his priority transfer target, of course. And then we'll give you Aubameyang, because you love Abba. At Dortmund, of course, he coached him at Borussia Dortmund. He absolutely loved him. So we bought him from Barcelona. He played for like a few months and then obviously went. Aubameyang, man, he could have done something for us. He could have been a bit of a Giroud for us, I think. It all went wrong, didn't it? That's the biggest criticism. For me, the biggest criticism of this ownership is just the mess they started with. I don't actually mind how it's gone recently, winning the Club World Cup, Conference League, and, you know, having your Cole Palmers and your Stevaus and stuff like that. I think, obviously, the Maresca sacking upset a lot of people. But that start was such a mess. You know, when Todd Boehly was interim sporting director and just trying to please Tuchel. And that's another, we're going to speak about this rift in the ownership in just a moment and fan opinion, but that's another really intriguing thing in all of this, how all the ire and anger's been now directed at Clearlake and Ighbali, and, you know, Bowley's not to be seen at games, and he is the chairman of Chelsea and co-owner, but maybe people are seeing Bowley as perhaps the good guy, and of course in the rift, well, the guy they see more like Abramovich, that they wants to buy big name players and, you know, have a bit more of a Galactico senior team, and maybe Ighbali's aligning with the directors more about buying children. Maybe, speculating to a degree here. Excuse me. And of course there is this civil war, and when they were briefing against each other, which, by the way, that's just ruddy embarrassing. Bowley was sort of inferring that he has the means to buy out Clearlake, not himself, but he will get financial backing with his consortium, Walter and Weiss, and they'll buy Ighbali and Feliciano out. You know, that was like when they were briefing against each other before Chelsea found a bit of form and they quietened down. We'll speak about that in a moment. So, Raheem Sterling, I want to speak to you about Sky's odds for Raheem to go next, because this is Sterling to sign before the 3rd of February 2026, which of course is the close of the current winter transfer window. And they're just guessing these because 6-4, which is very strong odds, both joint favourites, Fulham and West Ham. Of course, we know he wants to stay in London. Now, if Raheem Sterling signs for West Ham, they're getting relegated, bro. You know, maybe he just wants to play football in the Premier League. You know, maybe West Ham think he could save them from relegation. Sterling and Jared Bowen up top. Paqueta behind them in the number 10. That's sort of a front three, innit? Fulham, of course, is the obvious one. It's a well-trodden path. You don't have to move house. You stay in the same place, you know. And, of course, Crystal Palace is another one at 9-2. You got things like Forest, which I think is highly unlikely. Any MLS team. Bayern Munich, Leeds, any Saudi team, 18-1. We know he's not going there. Back to Liverpool, 25-1. Who's putting 25-1? Imagine the Liverpool fans if they were signing Sterling right now. And the Man United, 25-1. Literally, there's some geezer in a Sky office that's someone that he's been tasked to do these odds, and he's literally just made these up. He's like, I'll put Man United in there, 25-1, top banter. It should be 500-1. Liverpool should be 1,000-1. We know categorically he won't go to Saudi. He said it. So, you know, where's that coming from? Anyway, nonsense. Look, I've said it. I've been saying it. I don't think we'll go anywhere in January. I think it will get to the summer where I think they'll have a year left on this deal, and I think they'll sit around the table and they'll just basically, there'll be this conversation where we give him some money and he just goes, or they terminate his contract or something so he can get a sign-on fee. Excuse me. There'll be a deal where Chelsea lose out, he gets a bit of money, and then you can go and sign somewhere on a free as a 30-year-old. How old is he, 30 or 31? I need to know for sure. Because if he's 30 still, you got 3 years. He'll think himself as a Harry Kane. He's 31, so he's just turned 31 in December. A month ago, he turned 31. he'll back himself to play at a high level for a couple of years. Anyway, let's move on and speak about Liam Rosenior. I'm just going to read this article on Chelsea.news. The chants of Chelsea fans are a hot topic right now. The supporters, especially away, of course, which are the most staunch, hardcore Chelsea, reached breaking point with the ownership of the sacking of Enzo Maresca. The Man City and Fulham games since then have been rife with anti-Bluco and particularly pedantic Barley chants, and I'll add anti-Clear Lake to that. Those continued at Charlton last night, of course, is the following day, reaching new levels of ferocity as one Chelsea... Yeah, sorry, it's a bit of peculiar writing here. But supporters have made it clear it's not against their managers. They sang Maresca's name until the end. I don't know if they did. I think they sang his name twice. And actually, towards the end, it was getting pretty... I think there's a little bit of revisionism. I think they're using the Maresca sacking, not necessarily as romanticising massively with Maresca, because I think a lot of Chelsea fans were frustrated with Maresca. 1 win in 9 Premier League games. They didn't like how he was coming out and, giving it... Some people did, but some people think, why are you rocking the boat here? I don't think all players were on board with him. And some Chelsea fans were frustrated with his management and maybe his substitutions as well. And of course, the form was really bad. So it wasn't like this beloved Tuchel sacking that, I think it was more, they've done it again. Where's the stability, rather than perhaps we're totally in love with Enzo Maresca. And Liam Rosenior got similar treatment after his game in charge. So he did. Bobby Vincent of Football.London explained how the away support did serenade the new gaffer with a rendition of Liam, Liam, Liam. Creative genius there. They do have some good chants, the Chelsea fans, but, it's going to take some work for a Liam Rosenior song, I think. He was asked about the anti-ownership chants, the Chelsea manager. If your fans are happy, it means you're doing a good job. All I am going to focus on at the moment is working as hard as I possibly can to help this team achieve the potential, the unlimited potential it has. If we keep winning, the fans will keep supporting the manager. Oh, this is what's written on the article. Yeah, look, this is tough. I've been saying this. He is in a very difficult position because his biggest strength is his biggest weakness. His biggest strength is nothing to do with how good he speaks, not him being an excellent manager. I'm going to be totally fair here, bro. His biggest strength is he works for Bluco, so he got the job. I don't want to be unfair because, he is a great up-and-coming coach, and he's very impressive as a communicator and a man manager, and people in the game that know a lot more than me will tell us, that he's very impressive. And since learning about him and listening to him, I'm really rooting for him. I've been quite consistent on that on the channel. But he got the job because he works for Bluco. You'd be an absolute sausage to suggest otherwise. And that for him, that's his biggest strength because it got him the Chelsea job. But for him, it's his biggest weakness because he's public enemy. He's the boy. He's the company man. Despite, briefings saying he's not a yes man, he will say yes to them. He said yes to Chelsea. He has come out and said big lines like, I will decide what happens at this football club, which is big words. I'm not sure. He won't decide everything. We know that. We know the structure is key. The hierarchy is king. Rightly or wrongly, that's the case at Chelsea. And we will see. Now, Chelsea fans, like any fan bases, are people, and they will understand, that he is a guy with an opportunity trying his best. It's a little bit like, the Man United fans really supporting Ruben Amorim, knowing he's in a tricky position. I actually think Ruben Amorim did flop quite badly at Man United in terms of his managerial performances. I'm hoping Liam doesn't. But I think the Chelsea fans will support Liam Rosenia. I think they will. And I think if he wins, I think he will connect with the fans a lot better than Maresca did. I think and this is not just my opinion, this has been stated by the journalists, pundits, broadcasters. He will connect with the players and fans better. Now, whether that's because he's speaking in his first language, whether that's just because of his character, I reckon there's probably a little bit of both of that. I think Maresca has got aura to him and he's a great tactician, but he was always going to protect himself more, like great managers do, Tuchel, Conte, Mourinho. They sort of isolate themselves, and they won't mind damaging the club a little bit, provided it protects them. And that's why you have your Conte whinges and press conferences about transfers and getting himself sacked, and Maresca with these recent outbursts. I don't think you'll get that from Liam. I think Liam hopefully will put the club first. We'll see, rather than protect himself. We'll see what happens. Maybe he does a Maresca. Maybe he wins, I don't know, the FA Cup and gets us into the Champions League. And then he gets Billy Big Balls again like Maresca did. And then he comes out, this is the worst 48 hours of my career as Chelsea manager next season. Who knows? I don't see it happening, but anything can happen. This is Chelsea. The truth is, this article is asking, will his success on the pitch separate the chance and the discontent from the Chelsea fans? I don't think it will, and I don't necessarily think it should. I do think if Chelsea, consistently win, then yeah, it will heal the rift. If Chelsea win trophies, qualify for Europe, if Chelsea win the Champions League this season, which is very, very unlikely, but as a theoretical thought experiment, if they win the Champions League this season, Palmer and Estevao score in the final, they run over and hug Liam Rosenia, and Reece James lifts the Champions League for the second time as a Chelsea player, this time as captain. Will the first game of next season be, F off Egbali, you're not welcome here? I don't know. I doubt it, because Chelsea's all about winning trophies, and that's what the Chelsea fans demand. If that comes again, then maybe they will. It's not for me to say. I know there's some other unrests. Obviously, there's been some academy managers overlooked, and there's been this kinetic agency, boys club thing to do with Joe Shields hiring his mates, which doesn't look good. Of course, there was the controversy with Todd Boehly and the ticket stuff. I don't know if that's still going, and of course, Todd Boehly's he's out of the crosshairs a little bit now. It's all Barley. So it's not just that. It's not just the sporting success. And of course, there's a problem with ticket prices generally, and that's across football at the moment. So we'll see what happens, but winning certainly will help. Right, bit of a longer piece of content today. You can tell I'm getting my voice back, but I still feel under the weather. Let me know your thoughts. Please do leave them down in the comment section. Thank you for spending a little bit of time to support me by liking and subscribing on the YouTube, following and 5-starring on the Spotify. Of course, just search Football Therapy Podcast. And I'm very grateful, as always, for your continued support. I will have a Clips account on Instagram soon, and on this channel, YouTube, there'll be shorts, I think, hopefully. I think it's Football Therapy Clips on Instagram to follow. I should plug that early doors, really. Anyway, that's enough. Take care of yourselves.